Hey folks, it's that time of year again. 420 is around the corner. In fact, it is this weekend. And our friends at Sunset Lake Seder are celebrating with their biggest sale of the season. Now through April 22nd, when you check out with code 420, you will save 30% site-wide. Flour, gummies, tinctures, even their new vapes, all for 30% off. Even better, when you spend over $100, they will throw in a 20-count jar of their microdose Vibe gummies for free. If you spend over $150, you get a free 40-count jar of Vibe gummies. And here's the best part. They're not just blowing smoke over there. 4.20% of sales will be donated to the Last Prisoner Project, an organization dedicated to reforming this nation's unjust cannabis laws and supporting those who've been negatively impacted by prohibition. The Majority Report is going to match these donations. So a double bang for your buck. I'm a daily or nightly, oftentimes, user of Sunset Lake Seder. Here are these midnight gummies. I meant to take these home because I'm running out of the other one. Or good night gummies, I should say. These are really good. These are really, really good. And help me get to sleep, which is always a difficult task for me. But it's 30% off site-wide. Everything is on sale. Code is 420. And then again, 4.20% of sales will be donated to the Last Prisoner Project, and the Majority Report is going to match. Head on over to sunsetlakesebede.com and use coupon code 420 to save 30% site-wide. The sale ends April 22nd at midnight Eastern Time. See their site for additional terms and restrictions. And now, time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, April 18th, 2025. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Representative Greg Casar of Texas, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, will be with us. And later in the show, Cody Johnston of Some More News joins us to break down this week in news. Also on the program, Senator Chris Van Hollen was finally able to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador. He is alive, thankfully. Great job, Van Hollen. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, in an opinion written by a Reagan appointee, issues a scathing rebuke of the administration's efforts to defy the Supreme Court. Speaking of those guys, SCOTUS says they will hear arguments for Trump's attempt to ban birthright citizenship, which is a 14th Amendment protection. The American citizen detained by ICE in Florida for being Latino, it seems, basically, has been released. Trump's approval rating is beginning to tank. He's at 45% now, well under the first quarter average for previous presidents since polling began, which is 60%. That's usually the honeymoon period. Trump is scaling back the White House's annual human rights reports, defying decades of precedent. Meanwhile, dozens more have been killed in Gaza as Israel's genocide continues unabated, including a photojournalist whose documentary had just been selected for the Cannes Film Festival the day before. The U.S. says it will abandon Russia-Ukraine peace talks if they don't make progress in the next few days. There's an E. coli outbreak in 15 states right now. If you didn't hear about it, well, that's because the FDA is choosing not to publicize it. that same FDA is also planning to end its routine safety inspections for food.
Gotta have growth.
Time to read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Again.
It's good for the economy to sell rotten meat.
Why doesn't Australia want our meat when we don't inspect it? Trump is set to cut the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau workforce by 90%. Just 200 employees would remain. And lastly, good news. The liberal Wisconsin Supreme Court rules that Democratic Governor Tony Evers can lock in a school funding increase for 400 years. All of this, let's go. I mean, look at what's happening in Texas. We don't want any vouchers in Wisconsin. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome to the show, everybody. It is Casual Friday. Hello, Russ. Hello, Matt. Very excited for our conversation.
Happy birthday, Emma.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it is my birthday. I am 31. Not a fun age, not an interesting age, but yes, I am 31 years old.
It's a fine age.
It is a fine age, but it's just nothing notable. Although you kind of run out of notable birthdays.
Yeah, those are over.
By 21 or by 30, maybe.
I think
30.
there's like one in the 60s that's nice or something.
Yeah.
33 is the age of Christ that's coming up.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will finally ascend to my final form.
You got 2 years to develop a Messiah complex.
I'm halfway there. Well, we finally have some good news. Let's start with this. Senator Chris Van Hollen was able to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia yesterday in El Salvador. We were not sure if he was still alive based on how the administration had been conducting itself. This is the footage, or these are the photos here. You can see that they gave him his clothes back and put a hat on. He's wearing a hat. I don't know if that was the hat he came with, but we know that they shave their heads in CCOT, this notoriously torturous prison in El Salvador. These are the photos that Bukele posted, actually. So
yeah.
Can you find the original from Van Hollen? Yeah. Because it's important to note that Bukele, the president of El Salvador, photoshopped these. It's interesting that they did this he photoshopped it. Look at the original photo. It's interesting that Bukele allowed for this to even happen and that there was pressure that created this, which was in part due to the fact that Van Hollen, give him immense credit. This is what democracy looks like in action. This is a senator showing up for his constituent when the rest of the world looked like it had abandoned him. And say, there's all these right wingers like, he's not a constituent. Okay, well, his wife is. His wife is an American citizen. And constituents don't include voters. Constituents also are just people that you are supposed to be the democratic representative of, small d. That's what this country is supposed to be about. Even people that don't vote for you, if you're a senator in that state, you're supposed to be representing them. And Van Hollen is putting Chuck Schumer to shame here by showing what it actually means to stand up for the American people. But in this photo, you'll see the water glasses are just water glasses. And then when you go back to Bukele's photo of this meeting, you'll see that he has put this photo has salt on the rim of the glasses and maraschino cherries.
A Nazi.
To make it look like it's a cocktail. Let's go back to his caption. Kilmar Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. Obviously very conscious about the optics of CCOT, which looks like a concentration camp and seems to function as one.
He was calling him a terrorist, like 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago? And now he's making jokes about, look at how great this person is treated, that we just, it's like a hotel or something.
And it's really important that this happened for fighting the Trump administration, because they're calling him a terrorist, but they let him out. This means that Bukele can release him. This means that their explanations for why he can't be sent back to the United States are completely bunk, which we already knew that. But you see by the fact that he is out of CCOT in these photos that Bukele has the capacity to do so. He's choosing not to do so under the direction of the Trump administration because he's functioning as their contractor. And you also heard Van Hollen repeat that when he spoke to the vice president in El Salvador, who said, no, the Trump administration is paying us to do this, and that's why we're not releasing him, which means that they're flagrantly violating the Supreme Court's order. But this is how, like, they're on their heels. This is how you stand up to a bully. Van Hollen is showing what leadership really looks like in the face of fascism and authoritarianism. And then we also have the Fourth Circuit, the federal appeals court in Virginia, which rejected the Trump administration's attempts to stay the judge Paula Zenas' order to facilitate the release of Abrego Garcia. This judge who wrote this opinion is named Harvey Wilkinson. Wilkinson is a Reagan appointee, a conservative judge. And the Fourth Circuit, this is a scathing opinion that goes after the Trump administration's actions here. I just wanted to read part of it because it's so well said. Let's pull this up. Upon review of the government's motion, the court denies the motion for an emergency stay pending appeal and for a writ of memorandus. Or for a writ of mandamus. I've actually never heard that before. This is why I didn't go to law school. The relief the government is requesting is both extraordinary and premature. While we fully respect the executive's robust assertion of its Article 2 powers, which, by the way, is the part of the Constitution that vests the president's authority in foreign affairs, and that's supposed to be shared with the legislature, but that's what that's referring to, basically, the administration's invocation of foreign policy to make these determinations and to violate him of his due process. We shall not micromanage the efforts of a fine district judges attempting to implement the Supreme Court's recent decision. It is difficult in some cases to get to the very heart of the matter, but in this case, it is not hard at all. The government is asserting a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process that is the foundation of our constitutional order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, that there is nothing that can be done. This should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear. The government asserts that Abrego Garcia is a terrorist and a member of MS-13. Perhaps, but perhaps not. Regardless, he is still entitled to due process. If the government is confident of its position, it should be assured that position will prevail in proceedings to terminate the withholding of removal order. Moreover, the government has conceded that Abrego Garcia was wrongly or mistakenly deported. Why then should it not make what was wrong right? The Supreme Court's decision remains, as always, our guidepost. That decision rightly requires the lower federal courts to give due regard for the deference owed to the executive branch in the conduct of foreign affairs. That would allow sensitive diplomatic negotiations to be removed from public view. It would recognize as well that the facilitation of Abrego Garcia's return leaves the executive branch with options in the execution, to which the courts, in accordance with the Supreme Court's decision, should extend a genuine deference. That decision struck a balance that does not permit lower courts to leave Article 2 by the wayside. So basically, this is being generous with the government's claims. But here they reassert why the Trump administration is in violation. The Supreme Court's decision does not, however, allow the government to do essentially nothing. It requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. Facilitate is an active verb. It requires that steps be taken, as the Supreme Court has made perfectly clear. The plain and active meaning of the word cannot be diluted by its constriction, as the government would have it, to a narrow term of art. We are not bound in this context by a definition crafted by an administrative agency and contained in a mere policy directive. And then this other part here is important too. Facilitation does not permit the admittedly erroneous deportation of an individual to one's country's prisons that the withholding order forbids, and further to do so in disregard of a court order that the government not so subtly spurns. I think we're good at this point, but you can just see how definitive this was. And we're not even down this road, but the government's actions here violate the 14th Amendment, which guarantees due process. That is, I mean, it's made clear, even though I think that if Abrego Garcia is to return to the United States, he would have to try to challenge this in court or sue on those grounds. But it's also an 8th Amendment violation, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. He's been sent without due process to a torturous facility, which, let me remind people, they are packed in like sardines. Their skin disease and disease spreads because they are constantly touching one another. It's so packed. They have no blankets. They have no pillows. The LED lights are blaring over them in their basically steel barracks. They can't speak to one another. They can't get a lawyer. They can't speak to a lawyer. They can't speak to their family. They can't look outside. They can't be outside. No sunlight.
Can't get health care.
Can't get health care. Hundreds have died at this facility because of these conditions. That is the definition of cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment. The administration is so in violation of the Constitution that it's almost difficult to find which amendments they're not violating.
Human Rights Watch estimates, based on official data, that there are 109,000 people held in prisons with an official capacity of 70,000.
The Bukele and the Trump administration can no longer claim that they cannot release him because we just saw that they can. What are the arguments that they're going to make in court now? Because they have shown themselves to be complete liars. They are testing the bounds of the Constitution. There's no question. But they're also, I think, burning a lot of political will that they didn't need to, but they're just such fascists that they couldn't help it. There was an article in The American Prospect by Ryan Cooper, which breaks this down. I'll just read a little of this. It's called "The Anti-Immigration Majority is a Mirage." And there are a lot of folks that are more centrist in the Democratic Party that say that we should be abandoning the immigration fight because it's Trump's best polling number in
Gavin
terms of
Newsom
issues.
called it an 80-20 issue, and I think it's really suspicious that he is echoing people like Charlie Kirk when people mention 80-20 issues. I think it's kind of a red flag to me, but whatever.
You mean Charlie Kirk, the guy he played patty cakes with on his show and said his son loves?
Exactly.
Oh, that Gavin
It's
Newsom,
an 80-20 issue, bro.
who was married to the conservative Fox News commentator, the best is yet
Kim
to come
Guilfoyle.
lady. Yeah, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Okay. This is the popularism that is a disease in the Democratic Party. They act like they don't have control over polling and how things poll, and they can't change public opinion by using the bully pulpit. Well, here this article shows that just Donald Trump's inhumanity and his actions have changed polling. Imagine if there was a united Democratic opposition that was pushing this narrative. The Gallup poll on whether Americans think immigration should be increased or decreased shows a curious pattern. From about 2001, at a high of 65%, there was a steady decline in the fraction of respondents who favored less immigration, with a corresponding upward trend in the faction favoring more. The lines briefly crossed in mid-2020 with a plurality in favor of increased immigration, but starting in 2021, there was a sudden jump back toward restriction. This is around the time the Democrats started conceding this point, by the way. During the 2024 campaign, Donald Trump consistently received his highest approval ratings on immigration. The fraction of people saying that immigration is the most important issue in the country jumped from 9.2% in 2021 to 14.6% in 2024. And Trump's xenophobic stance seemingly paid off, even among Latinos who would be the targets of his mass deportation agenda. He was the first Republican to win the Rio Grande Valley, which is chock full of mixed status families, since 1912. Post-election reporting saw many anecdotes of unauthorized immigrants themselves saying they would have voted for Trump because surely he wouldn't deport hardworking people like themselves. But now that support is fading fast. Most recent polls show the priority of immigration plummeting and majority disapproval for Trump on the issue. In the most recent YouGov Economist poll, he is now 11 points underwater, down 16 points since he was inaugurated. Among Latinos, He is now 46 points underwater on this issue. And that's all. I mean, that says it all. If just Donald Trump's inhumanity and his actions by themselves can change public opinion like this, imagine if we actually messaged on our side. Imagine.
And I would like to say, like, hopefully, on a hopeful note, maybe we're at the end of a lie, because this anti-immigrant sentiment, it also corresponds to the post-financial crisis, downturn of people's economic outlook. This going after immigrants is not the solution to that, and I think more and more people are realizing that they've been sold something false, and they've been misdirected away from the actual cause of people's lack of wage growth and lack of, a better life that they thought they would have.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to be speaking to Representative Greg Casar in just a second, but first, a word from our sponsors. I love Manacora honey. It's really, really good, and, there's some off-label usage that I like if you got a zit or something like that. Manacora honey is rich, creamy, and the most delicious honey you have ever had. If you like tea, Manacora honey is perfect for that. It's ethically produced by Manacora's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. Manacora honey contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. The bees collect the nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand. The nectar is packed with bioactives, and the honey that is produced has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. The special antibacterial compound called MGO also comes from the nectar of the tea tree. Manacora third-party tests every single harvest for MGO and makes these results available through their QR system. It is a game changer. All you need is 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most out of the amazing bioactives and in Manuka. You can just have the teaspoon, or you can put it in your tea, or you can use it as a sweetener for other things. And then you know that you're having all of those great antibacterial compounds and antioxidants that are in Manacora honey. Additional usage throughout the day is completely fine as well, especially helping to cut out other sweeteners. Thanks to Manacora for supporting the Majority Report. Now it's easier than ever to try Manacora honey. Head to manacora.com/majority to get $25 off the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manacora.com/majority for $25 off your starter kit. And lastly, spring is springing. Spring is sprung. Well, not quite yet. It's in the middle of it. And this is the best time to get some greenery for your yard or for your apartment. Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the United States with more than 10,000 different kinds of plants and over 2 million happy customers in the United States. And I am one of them. I've got a plant that I've miraculously kept alive from Fast Growing Trees. And I credit them for having a high quality product because I've tried with some other plants and I do not have that green thumb. I don't have a lot of space, but if you also don't have a lot of space, Fast Growing Trees is for you, and you want some greenery, or you want to grow lemon, avocado, olive, or fig trees inside your home or outside of it. They also have a wide variety of houseplants available. The experts at Fast Growing Trees curate thousands of plants, so you can find the perfect fit for your specific climate, location, and needs. You don't have to drive around to nurseries and big gardening centers. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are shipped to your door in 1 to 2 days. None of all that dirt in the back of your car. Whether you're looking to add some privacy, shade, or natural beauty to your yard, Fast Growing Trees has in-house experts ready to help you make the right selection with growing and care advice available 24/7. You can talk to a plant expert about your soil type, landscape design, how to take care of your plants, and everything else you need. No green thumb required. This spring, they have the best deals online, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using the code MAJORITY at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code MAJORITY at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code MAJORITY. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. All right, quick break, and we'll be back with Representative Greg Casar. We are back, and we are joined now by Representative Greg Casar, Congressman representing Texas's 35th District and also chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Representative Casar, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Emma. Looking forward to talking with you and folks at home.
Absolutely. Let's start here because it's the biggest story of the day. Senator Chris Van Hollen was able to speak with Kilmar Abrego Garcia and see him in person. There was proof of life. There were some concerns that he may not even be alive because this prison is very notorious for its abuses, and sometimes people die there. What was your reaction to this fairly successful mission by Senator Van Hollen going to find his constituent down in El Salvador?
Well, first, I'm so grateful for Senator Van Hollen's leadership, and also so grateful that Mr. Abrego Garcia is alive. And I think this really shows how the Trump administration does not have to always be on the front foot on everything, and how when Democratic leadership and people in elected office listen to our constituents and stand up and really fight back, that we can put the worst authoritarians on the planet, like Bukele, on the back foot, that we can put the Trump administration on the back foot, that we can save lives, and that we can make some of these abuses and horrors a real national story. Because I feel like we're getting hit day in and day out by these constitutional abuses, taking away people's basic rights. And folks at home want to know, is there anything I can do about this? And I think speaking up and encouraging your leaders, folks like Senator Van Hollen, to stick up and fight. I think we can see how we could start to turn the tide, because they didn't just let Senator Van Hollen meet with Kilmar Garcia because they wanted to. It's because I think they had a sense that they had to, because the public was starting to get the sense that the President of the United States is talking about sending just anybody to a prison camp outside of American law in El Salvador. And that is not popular in this country. And I think folks really speaking out really start to make a difference. So we need to be getting back on the front foot, even on issues like immigration, where the Trump administration is going so far outside the law and being so abusive of people's baseline constitutional rights. This isn't about public safety. What the president is doing is about taking away the baseline rights of every single American, immigrant or not.
I'm glad you say that about the popularity of, because on the surface, right, Donald Trump's best issue when it comes to polling is immigration. But I've been frustrated by some conversations I hear in liberal circles where there's this tendency for some reason to respond to polling as if it is static and unchangeable, as if Democrats can't message in a way that changes the conversation around immigration. I grew up in the suburbs of New York City, going to Ellis Island and being told by my teachers how immigration built this country and how important it is to have immigration. Is there beginning to be a consensus within the party that this is the kind of thing that they can positively message around, how immigration makes us stronger?
We can't always play defense. Otherwise, the Republicans just fill the vacuum and fill the void with their own propaganda, and they continue to move the polling in their direction. Look, immigration issues did not poll great when Trump first was elected into office. But then when we started pointing out that he was putting kids in cages and deporting innocent families and taking our limited law enforcement resources away from gun traffickers and cartels and pointing it instead at innocent workers, then the numbers shifted. And us actually being a pro-immigrant party that also cared about law and order and a good economy and being pro-immigrant, that actually helped us take back the House during the first Trump administration. So I do think it's time for us to get off the back foot and start pointing out just how nuts it is that this guy wants to take away birthright citizenship that allows so many of us to be Americans when we were born and raised here rather than citizens of some other country that we've never known. It's so nuts that he's talking about sending Americans to prisons in El Salvador where you can't contact a lawyer, where a U.S. senator has to come find out if you're even alive. And so, look, as somebody that has been working in the labor rights world and as a labor organizer in the past and in immigrants' rights, I think we do have lessons to learn from 8 years ago that organizing and getting on the front foot and get on offense works, but we also need to remember that we need to connect our pro-immigrant message to the vast majority of the American people. This is the last thing I'll mention on this point, Emma. Back when I was a labor organizer here in Texas, before I was an elected official, we'd organize on construction sites where you had lots of citizens and non-citizens all on the site, and you wanted to organize folks into unions to push back to raise wages for everyone. And instead of just saying immigrant rights are human rights, which of course they are, but instead of just going with that message, we would talk about how these big moneyed interests wanted there to be two different classes of people. That if they could scare people and say a certain group of folks, immigrants, have less rights than citizens, then it was easier for them to work some folks overtime without ever having to pay them their overtime wages. They could push down wages for everyone. And so I think we need to get back to a place where we say these immigrant rights and the equal rights of everybody, that actually defends your rights as a citizen, that defends your rights as a worker. And I think the democratic and progressive message needs to get on the front foot, but also remain inclusive in that kind of bigger tent way.
Is that your experience as a labor organizer, that some folks who maybe were here were undocumented or weren't full citizens as workers, that the threat of deportation or immigration enforcement was often used by their employers to perhaps strong arm them into maybe more unsafe conditions or lower wages? Because that seems to be the under-discussed element of immigration enforcement, is that if you're somebody who wants to unionize or maybe is experiencing harassment in your workplace, you're going to be a lot less likely to speak up if you're fearful that ICE is going to come and take you away from your family.
This happens all the time, every single day in every major city and town in this country. I cannot tell you how often we had folks come in from the restaurant industry, from the service industry, from the construction industry, not only who are being underpaid and could be threatened with deportation if they spoke up, but folks that would work 2 weeks or a month and then not be paid anything at all. We don't talk enough about how wage theft is one of the greatest forms of theft in this entire country. And what I think we need to do if we want to be a populist and economic based party again as Democrats, but also a pro-immigrant party, is that everybody's wages will go up if we make sure that people are all on the same playing field and that immigrant workers have the same rights to speak up as everybody else and don't have the threat of deportation hanging over them. That we're going to have more unions for everybody if immigrant workers can feel just as comfortable signing that union card as a U.S. citizen worker. So this isn't just a human rights issue. This is an economic rights issue for every single American.
And on the immigration agenda, can the Democrats get behind the agenda that you're describing, an affirmative immigration agenda, not just the Congressional Progressive Caucus, not just running on some little trick that the Biden administration did with, we put this very right-wing border bill up in the Senate and the Republicans killed it because Trump didn't want to hand us a win. This procedural cute point was, I think one of the worst strategic moves of the campaign in 2024, because you're just hitting the Republicans on their hypocrisy and you're not saying what you believe in.
Look, voters want an orderly and safe and legal immigration system. And the challenge that we face, and this is where I'll be a little bit more empathetic to the Democrats' dilemma here, is that people want a system that works, but the Republican Party has essentially become a daily arsonist of the immigration system. And so if you have a party in the Republicans that wants to make the immigration system as illegal as possible, as difficult as possible, essentially the cartels couldn't have a better friend than the Republican Party that want to keep immigration as difficult as possible so that they create a black market for immigration. As Democrats, we are seen as responsible for the immigration system that we have. And we need to not just blame the Republicans for a broken system, but actually have a proposal for what a good legal system would look like. So folks aren't sitting in tents and shelters at the border, but instead can apply legally and come here in a safe, orderly, and legal manner. And to your point, if we don't have that affirmative vision, then we're always going to be stuck into every campaign cycle as we get closer to election going Republican light. And at that point, if the argument's between Republican and Republican light, a lot of people are just going to pick the real thing.
And to be more specific, that means not maybe instead of all this money going towards enforcement or policing on the border, does that include increase in funding for processing, expanding the pool of resources for immigration courts to allow for folks to be able to come in and then come back to their hearing and have this system make more sense as opposed to it being one based on fear?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much we have to do. First of all, we got to say, look, the folks that have been here for years and years and years, paying taxes, doing their job. Look, those folks, they're basically U.S. citizens, but for continued inaction in Congress, first of all. Right. Then second of all, we've got to have a way that people can apply to come here, because so many people, when we say, well, just wait in line and come here the right way, that system doesn't even exist. It just doesn't exist, period. So we've got to create that pathway for people who are fleeing desperation and violence and all these problems across the Western Hemisphere to be able to apply and have a process for coming here legally. Otherwise, you could just dump all of the money in the world on continuing to enforce a broken system. And then the last thing that not enough Democrats talk about, and I'm pretty unorthodox on this even within my own party, is we've got to address the ways that the United States' own foreign policy drives starvation and deprivation across the world and pushes people to come here that would rather be at home if they could, but for some of the United States' own policies. Look, I'm not a fan of the Maduro regime in Venezuela in the least bit, but we have pursued a policy of starving innocent people in Venezuela, hoping that Maduro would hold elections when he's not going to hold a free and fair election. Then when a lot of folks from Venezuela show up, we need to ask ourselves, was this the right policy for us to contribute to the very starvation and problems that many of them are fleeing? Of course, many of them are their own government's fault, but they aren't even voting for that government in most cases. But why would we go and then punish those people and then let the Republicans weaponize that issue against us? It's insane, and we can't keep doing it.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's a great point. And you bring up foreign policy, which is obviously a very important and salient topic for a lot of the Democratic base when it comes to what Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have called acts of genocide in Gaza. I asked, we had Representative Pramila Jayapal on the show in January. She is obviously your predecessor in the Congressional Progressive Caucus. I love that you guys have term limits. And so that's like something just more democratic about the small d democratic about the Congressional Progressive Caucus that I appreciate. But this was her answer. And I'm wondering if you have an update on this from January to my question about whether or not the Democratic Party has reckoned with how young people may be disillusioned by what they're seeing out of the Gaza Strip. Is the party reckoning with how the support for this slaughter has potentially damaged the party's brand long term for an entire generation of young people and also the voters you describe?
My honest answer to you is I don't think that conversation is happening. I really don't. I think it's been frustrating to me as somebody who shares, and has been really vocal on Gaza, and been targeted for it by.
Yeah, her answer is longer. People can check out that full interview if they'd like, but we have you for a limited time, Representative Casar. Is there an update to that? Has the Democratic caucus begun, in your opinion, to reckon with some of the effects of how people view now this past administration as a party that supports such brutality when we've drawn such a significant contrast, frankly, after the Bush administration waged the illegal war in Iraq? We're back to square one, it seems to me.
We can't let the Trump administration that is now openly advocating for the complete ethnic cleansing of Gaza continue to then try to message and say that they're going to become the anti-war party within the Republican Party. I mean, at that point, that would just be so devastating to us. We have to be and have the Democratic Party be the party that is for prosperity of our own people and against violence here and across the world. And that, I think, is has led to real consequences for so many innocent people in Gaza. But to your question, as far as the Democratic Party really reckoning with it, I agree with my prior chair, Pramila Jayapal, that reckoning has not yet happened. But one place where I hope we can start to have that reckoning and that conversation is with some of these early elections and early primaries that we're going to have, because some of the organizations that dump in infinite amounts of money for those candidates that want there to be peace and stability for innocent Palestinians and Israelis alike. Now, we're talking about a situation where the president of the United States is advocating for complete ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And I hope that Democratic primary candidates at least can speak out against that. And we will be having some of those elections upcoming even this year. So I urge folks that are watching this here at home to pay attention to some of those early elections and see if we can have the kind of reckoning within our Democratic Party that big money should not be determining who wins these primaries, and that Democratic candidates can and should do better with the support of our base to be willing to speak out against what went from devastating, horrific choices by the Biden administration to a total ethnic cleansing plan that we're now facing down with Netanyahu and Trump in cahoots.
Is that a part of what DNC Vice Chair David Hogg is focusing on? I mean, what is your opinion on that effort to potentially primary some folks in Congress?
I haven't really gotten a chance to know what the real details are of what it is he's working on. What I will tell you is that the Congressional Progressive Caucus does have its own PAC. We are not an outside group, and so we're, of course, going to be different than outside organizations. We participate in open primaries, of which there will be many, usually when there's retirements. And then also, for example, there have been the really tragic and early deaths of some of our own Progressive Caucus members. And so in those open seats is where oftentimes you've actually seen the enormous spending and a progressive candidate oftentimes in a progressive district have to face down a much more centrist or corporate other candidate, and where this debate on foreign policy really comes to a head. And so I think will see that in several of the open seats because of retirements or because we're filling the vacant seat of a member who has passed. And so I think you'll be seeing that coming up here this year. We won't have to be waiting till next year, I think, for some of that.
And last question on this topic. I just think it's important to really nail this down here. I'm still hearing essentially every Democrat talk about the two-state solution as the goal right now. And I just want to be clear that it appears that Israel is attempting to take the entirety of the West Bank and is ethnically cleansing the whole Gaza Strip, which in practice would create a one-state reality. This messaging isn't urgent enough to address what's happening there. Can there be discussions within the Congressional Progressive Caucus, or will there be, about what a future Israel-Palestine position looks like? Because we're using talking points from like 20 years ago to talk about the situation there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's such a sensitive topic for amongst members of Congress. I have, of course, within the Congressional Progressive Caucus, nearly 100 members who vote all different sorts of ways on this issue. And what we're trying to bring people together around is, how do we stop the killing? How do we, at least in the immediate term, just stop the continued just daily death and famine and withholding of aid and human rights abuses in both the West Bank and in Gaza for the good of everyone there? And so I think you're right. Talking about this the way we talked about this theoretically years ago no longer addresses the issue. I have a lot of trouble, I'm going to be honest here to folks watching on the show, a lot of trouble talking with that big of a group of people about what the vision is for 5 or 10 years from now. But where I can get folks together is to say it is just devastating what has been going on, and we've got to find a way to make it stop. That the level of death, the conditions for people there is just unacceptable, and it should be unacceptable for anybody of conscience. And so Right now, I do think that sort of putting aside the talking points that were so 1990s and 2000s does make sense to me. I don't have the best idea for you on this show about where we head 5 or 10 years from now. But right now, I'm just trying to say, hey, how do we organize to say stop the bombs?
Right. You gotta look at right in front of you as well as long term and have long term and short term strategy. I totally get that. In a more positive direction, on the long term strategy piece, this anti-oligarchy tour that you were a part of with AOC and Bernie Sanders seems to be just absolutely picking up incredible steam. And you have this mascot of Elon Musk, but really just the multiple Republican billionaires that are in Donald Trump's administration that put characters to the public of like what oligarchy looks like, what billionaire capture of our government looks like. Is that a vision that you see going forward for the Democrats, as the messaging on kitchen table issues is about how tariffs are affecting the economy and he's so turbulent and causing all of these issues? There's also this other piece of like, no, we've got to tax the rich. And it seems like the base is completely there.
The base is there, and the base is getting bigger on this issue. When I was on the Fighting Oligarchy tour and went and did the Tucson, Arizona stop with Bernie and AOC, they said, look, we've got the high school gym rented out. It fits about 2,000 people. That's pretty good for Tucson. We showed up, and I thought we were already at the high school. We were 5 blocks away, and that's how long the line was. 23,000 people didn't fit in the gym. It took over the whole football field, and it was the biggest rally in Arizona history. And it's only gotten bigger since then. And when I talked to people standing in the line as we were getting ready for the event, there were lots of folks who said, I wasn't with Bernie 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, but damn, I think maybe he was right this entire time. Because before, when he was talking about billionaires running the government behind the curtain, now they're running the cabinet meetings. Now the richest man on earth is bragging about running the government on Twitter every day. And so this is a moment within all of this despair and all the horrible stuff, of course, we have been talking about. There also is an opening for us to transform the Democratic Party into the kind of party that can excite not just our base, but bring in disaffected voters and independents, folks that might be more socially conservative than you and I on some issues, but say at the end of the day, we need a party that says we shouldn't have the richest guys on earth buying politicians in order to skew their economy in their own favor and screw over everybody else. And that is the kind of message that held together FDR's coalition. That's the kind of message that held together JFK and LBJ's coalition. That's how you build the next New Deal. That's how we pass Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare, was by being a party that could hold most of the country together by saying we're for working people. But just as you said, just saying we're for working people, maybe nobody hears that kind of a standard message. We also have to have a villain and show folks who we're willing to fight against.
Yes.
And those villains are very clear right now.
Well, that's positive and encouraging to hear. Representative Greg Casar, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on. And the last thing I'll mention related to those villains is folks may not know at home that Elon Musk's term and allowed time in the Trump administration technically ends on May 30th. We don't believe that he'll necessarily follow the law and leave then.
Right.
And so we have a real chance to fire Elon Musk if folks, again, raise their voices on that issue over the coming month.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. All right, folks, quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be speaking to Cody Johnston of Some More News, having some fun with some more news. Be right back. are back, and we are joined now by Cody Johnston of the wonderful YouTube channel Some More News. Cody, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Obviously a huge fan. Happy birthday also.
Thank you. Yeah, it's your channel. Everybody has been like messaging us saying you have to come on. We played a little bit of one of your videos the other day. Can I ask, like, how long does it take for you to put together 40-minute long, like, very well produced, progressive YouTube? Like, I love the video essay format, but you churn out like a video essay format in way so quickly. It's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, it's you know, it's rougher some weeks than others. We do try to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like you're saying, 40 minutes, an hour. It's pretty heavily researched, and so we have this, like, we have a whole process from start to finish. Oftentimes, we'll come up with stuff that we kind of know, like, it'll be relevant for a long time, and knowing that, okay, well, we filmed this, even though it was written a month ago, we can sort of plug in current events and keep it going. But, you know, a Ben Shapiro episode or whatever, that's months of just sort of like packing in as much as you possibly can. And it's also the year or so before where all these clips are coming out and he's saying whatever.
Right.
So it really does depend. Sometimes it's just like, oh, something happened this week. We need to just do something on that topic. And our head writer will just be like, no emails this week. I'm just doing this.
It's really well done, and you're funny in it, but also providing everybody with all of like the information that they need on that topic. You mentioned Ben Shapiro. You've done some deep dives over there into that crew. What the hell is going on at the Daily Wire?
Nothing good, it doesn't seem. It seems like they're falling apart. I mean, they're like all of their people are being fired or leaving. I know Jeremy Boring is gone. Because they're all losing money, because if you pump a bunch of money in from a billionaire for ideological purposes, maybe the output needs to be bringing in enough to sustain yourself. I assume it's because they wanted to be Amazon Prime was the problem, right? They're doing this streaming service, and they're doing like some like King Arthur epic show, and they're trying to do like the non-woke Snow White. And if you pump money into that, and the product isn't very good, then you're not going to be making money from it. So it seems like they just wasted a lot of money on vanity projects and trying to be like the anti-woke Hollywood, whatever conservative Hollywood they wanted to be. And you can't do everything.
It also seems like that media, that old way of like, there was this, the internet and YouTube became a thing. Then creators started blowing up. And there were companies that were like, how can we monetize this? How can we create little mini companies that are about content creation? And the Daily Wire is one of them, but they had so much money backing it. But like, I'm even seeing this in sports media too, where it's just folks are more drawn towards just going to creators that they appreciate. And these independent creators with subscription models, whether it's Substack or Ghost or other ways that people are accessing that content, it feels like that is just more of the trend these days. And the Daily Wire guys are like, they're getting smacked by Candace Owens and even some of these other streamers, or Brett Cooper.
Right. Everyone that they had for a while and then pissed off for whatever reason, and then couldn't make it work. Yeah, you're building up these personalities, and that's, you know, for better or worse, that's what people gravitate towards. And I'm sure people were like, well, Candace is saying this right thing, and now I'm going to go to her. Daily Wire lost me because they're not keeping up with whatever anti-Semitism is really big now or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think they just aren't, they like pumped all this money into a plan that wasn't going to work long term, it seemed. But they have the backing because their ideological project is the point, right? They're not really there to like get return on investment in like the normal way. It's just sort of like, if you put out propaganda for us, that helps us in our ideological project, as opposed to just doing good work or whatever.
Yeah. I think that's right. And it'll be fun to watch how that unfolds. Back to the real news and the politics of the day. So I want to play this old clip of Chuck Schumer from a month ago, a little under a month ago. This is around the time that he completely caved on the continuing resolution and decided to give up all of the Democrats' leverage.
Well,
because
what are you gonna
of
do? You know, work is hard. Nobody wants to work these days.
It'd be really bad if the government stopped working in a government shutdown. Oh, wait. The government already has stopped working because Elon Musk and the Doge groypers are slowly shutting everything down and making it non-functional and stealing all the data from our treasury. It's insane. And you also have to show, as we're seeing with Chris Van Hollen, you have to show strength. That's the only thing that these fascists know how to respond to. That's the only way that you can fight them politically. Schumer, but he's gonna fight. This is what he said.
He just needs time. He just needs time.
He needs time. Okay, so this was, maybe it's been like 3.5 weeks since he said this. Maybe he's gotten there.
Look, this is an extraordinary moment. It does require extraordinary action. If he defies the Supreme Court, then we are in uncharted territory that we haven't been in for a very long time, and our entire democracy, this whole beautiful enterprise of democracy that we've had for over 240 years, is at risk. And look, I believe that if Donald Trump should defy the courts, the public will rise up. Democrats will fight it in every single way. And I believe, autocrats only succeed, Kristen, if the public lets them. But
Keep going. Keep going.
What about the Senate? Okay.
Yeah.
But if the public is so succeed, Kristen, if the public lets them. But if the public is so angry and takes action, and certainly we Democrats will, it will trigger a mass movement from one end of the country to the other, something that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Hell yeah. I'm fired up.
Public.
Yeah. We're coming for you, whoever.
Oh, yeah. I just love the outsourcing of it. The public will rise up. Dude, Van Hollen just pantsed you. Just by you know how you get the public to show up? By showing fight yourself. And I think that's under the dictionary definition of leadership.
It's so embarrassing and pathetic to just let that happen and not address, because even to what your conversation a little earlier, you can't just be like, well, it's not popular, so we shouldn't do it, or it's not polling well, or you can't just put your finger to the wind and see what you should do if you don't have moral clarity and you're not trying to actually get a message out with some sort of communication to bolster public opinion or push back on it, or be like you're saying, it's leadership, it's communication is such a huge part of it. And if you're not pointing out why this is wrong or this is wrong or this is illegal, I know it's at this point it's like, but sir, that's illegal. It's a little everything they're doing is illegal now. So what's the point in saying it? But if you're not communicating that, then the people, they might do it without you, but you need to do your job, I guess, is the point. It's just very frustrating to see people in that actual leadership sort of defer to once the people get mad enough, once the polling says we should do something, we will absolutely do something. We promise.
But that's what democracy is supposed to be, which is supposed to be you're doing that for us, not us doing it for you. Matt, you wanted to say something, but
I just want to insert a quote from David Brooks recently.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God, I know.
Record, which he says, "It's time for a comprehensive national civic uprising. It's time for Americans in universities, law, business, nonprofits, and the scientific community." Now, I'll just say, David Brooks used to be a Marxist. If he was still a Marxist, he might spare an inclusion of workers in that uprising, but anyway, Americans and universities,
implied,
yeah, this is kind of a professional class
Russ
uprising.
put it up, yeah.
Americans and universities, law, business, nonprofits, the scientific community, and civil servants and beyond. Okay, to form one coordinated mass movement. Trump is about power. The only way he's going to be stopped is if he's confronted by some movement that possesses rival power.
Well, there you go.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
David Brooks. Didn't think I'd ever say that, but good job to him.
I mean, this is radicalizing. This administration is causing people to. I saw to rethink some of their preconceived notions. I saw Bill Kristol say, when are we going to apologize to the abolish ICE people?
What?
The other day. Isn't that incredible?
I see that every day. It's sometimes couched in irony or whatever, but this sentiment of like, yeah, the resistance libs were right the whole time. This is what it is. A lot of people knew what was happening. It was accurate. The call was correct. The prediction was correct. And now they have this opportunity, the Trump administration, just do it all. And I think people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they were going to do all of that. And it is, it's one of those things that's like, it's very disheartening in a sense because the writing's been on the wall for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And it's really upsetting that things have to get bad for people to realize what's going on. But it does seem like that is what is happening.
Right.
Even on immigration issues, even on like all this stuff.
But abolish ICE was just when AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was elected in 2018, this was the blaring most radical opinion that she had. Right? Can we put the crystal thing up just because it's amusing to me? Just to verify that I wasn't hallucinating. Bill Kristol, who is now at the Bulwark, so I think his politics have changed, but
absolutely,
it's like a never Trump outfit, right? Basically.
Right. But like these are the same folks that were saying, no, it's the progressive left, saying things like abolish ICE are the problem within the party. He says, where does the abolish ICE movement go to get its apology? And this is important because ICE has been naturalized by the right. ICE was an outgrowth of 9/11 and the war on terror, as was the Department of Homeland Security. We can look back 25 years in the past to analyze how we've created a national security surveillance state in reaction to 9/11 and during the war on terror that is now being used to terrorize the people, our own citizens, our neighbors, other people in this country. And you have even some of the resistance liberals coming around to that point.
Yeah, it's quite something to see because this is all, like you're saying, 2018, that was the most radical thing AOC was saying. And it's something that, like, never Trumpers are so interesting because, like, you see this sort of very, very slow progression. You're sort of dragging them forward. These are all conversations that were being had in 2018. All the stuff that we're talking about today, 2017, 2018, 2019, the entire first term. And it's like slowly realizing why they're never Trump. In the first term, it was very much like, oh, he's boorish. He's like, oh, we don't like his personality. He's so like unpleasant and
uncouth,
we don't like him.
Right.
But now after like one term of him, you get some Biden and then this, it's like, oh, I get why I understand. Like his personality is actually linked to policy and it's linked to this political movement. And like you're saying, this path is very clear from, you can also point to like so many things about Reagan and then obviously the Bush era. And here we are. And it's just funny to see sort of like over the span of 10 years, all these guys go like, oh, right. I was wrong all along. This sucks. This sucks now. So good for them, I guess. Better late than never. They're
right.
Faster than Chuck Schumer, apparently.
Do you think that it helped because Biden got so unpopular? Like, I think that even though we obviously had major problems with Hillary Clinton, and it was tough for me to vote for her in the general election after that very brutal primary with Bernie Sanders. And, I did it because Trump was a threat. But we were kind of more in the minority, unfortunately, within the Democratic Party. She was still a very popular figure. I think Biden was so, like, people were so outraged by the cover up about his mental acuity, really. I think Democratic voters, they were angry that he put us all in this position again. And of course, with his support for the genocide in Gaza, polling hadn't been catching up yet, but the base was angry about that too. Although they now flip and they're more angry when Trump's in office, which is an annoying partisan thing, but it happens on both sides. Yeah. I wonder if that made it easier for people to all kind of realize, like, maybe we shouldn't just be default trusting somebody who's ever been in the same room as Obama or something like that.
Yeah. It seems like, I mean, Biden's ability is still, I think, unfolding, and people's mistrust there, and just sort of, you put all your eggs in this basket, and I don't know. I think that it's just that we have all this quick backlash to a backlash to a backlash to a backlash so much now. We're ping ponging all the time. It's so fast, every week, every month, every year, and people just forget so quickly about anything. I think also being able to be like, oh, look, Biden's so old and he's this, and you're pretending that he's the smartest, like sharpest guy in the room or whatever. I believe you. And so you're doing this, and then so you have this like, but we need some sort of guy who can finish a sentence. But in doing that, you forget about Trump. You forgot all about him. You see this even in a lot of Gen Z polling, some boomer polling about Trump's approval, where it's like, oh, right. Oh, he's terrible and obnoxious, and we don't want him around. But during the campaign, you don't really think about that. You think about what's in front of you, which is old as hell Biden stumbling through life, kind of. And so they swing over there, and now the reality sets in. I just wish people had stronger memory. Object
permanence. Like let's play this because we're kind of on the topic here. There's been, I guess it was announced this week that David Hogg, who is the new one of the vice chairs of the Democratic Party, is launching an effort to primary Democrats who are incumbents, who Hogg basically calls either, asleep at the wheel, I think was the phrase that he used. And the group is called Leaders We Deserve. They're apparently going to be spending around $20 million in deep blue districts. So this is a bit of the Justice Democrats model, except with somebody who is associated with and a part of the DNC. So I want to wait. I'm encouraged by this announcement. I want to wait to see what the criteria is for an incumbent primary challenger before I laud it.
Right.
However, the fact that they understand that this is necessary is interesting and important. But not everybody does. Here's old James Carville, and I'm glad we're playing this today because if Sam was back to hear this, he might actually have an aneurysm. This is Carville's he has one mode. It's only protecting the worst incumbent, most geriatric Democrats ever. Although I guess he was on board the Biden dropout train, maybe the one-time broken clock situation. But this is his reaction to Hogg's initiative.
Well, maybe, as I said, maybe they need to split off from the Democratic Party and call themselves the socialist, I don't know, urbanist, central city.
But you know why they're doing it. They looked at MAGA, and they did what we see all the time when you don't have better minds and better ideas. This is why you were so transcendent in politics. Is that, and I always find it cheap when people say, "Oh, Jim Carville."
Okay, Carville. When was that? That was before I was even born. 1992. That's what they're referring to.
I mean, they're playing to their audience, I guess, right? Like,
Cuomo, dude.
Right? That's
we remember, but I don't. I actually had to watch a documentary to remember it because I was born in 1994. Can we update like our Democratic political savants, please?
No, he's transcendent. That's why he gets to just sit on the couch in a t-shirt. Like, what's he doing, James? Like,
it's why you never see him out of his house or, a part of any real campaign. Transcendent pundit on what's his new News Nation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, James, you're on TV, but I don't even know if that's true. I don't know.
Right. What is News Nation? Yeah.
Shout out to Chris Cuomo, by the way, on News Nation. I used to work with him. He's the only person who likes to take their shirt off on the internet more than Jair Bolsonaro.
Not for medical reasons in his case.
No. No, I want to keep hearing.
Transcended in politics is that, and I always find it so cheap when people say, "Oh, Jim Carville, oh yeah, it's the economy, stupid." No, that wasn't your genius. Your genius was, centrism. I'm not going to be what beats me. What you see with Bernie and AOC right now is MAGA playbook. MAGA playbook. Make the masses angry. Dave Hogg, that's MAGA playbook. Go after your own and have a purity test. But what beats you, if you become that, you're not going to beat it.
Right. Well, I don't think that most of Democrats are that. And maybe we need to have a schism. Maybe we can form a governing coalition. You know, this happens every time in parliamentary things where you come in, you say, okay, you want to be part of our coalition. But when they spend all their time running against us. By the way, why don't somebody sue David Hogg? He's an officer of the Democratic National Committee. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he's running against other Democrats. I would like to know, and you went to law school, does he have a fiduciary duty toward Democrats? If you work for News Nation, you can't promote CNN. That's because you work for somebody else. You have a fiduciary duty to your employer, which anybody can understand.
I think it's good to maybe stop at the fiduciary duty thing, because I have a point I want to raise about our sort of alligator friend there. This is from a website called Privacy International. It says Palantir's predictive policing program in New Orleans. This is from February 2018. Under a secret deal beginning in 2012, the data mining company Palantir provided software to a New Orleans Police Department program that used a variety of data such as ties to gang members, criminal histories, and social media to predict the likelihood that individuals would commit acts of violence or become victims. This partnership was extended 3 times through February 21st, 2018. Even city council members had no idea the arrangement existed, though Palantir has used its New Orleans work as a reference for multi-million-dollar contract with another agency. Here we go. Political commentator James Carville, a paid advisor to Palantir, says he is the driver of this project, which Palantir describes as philanthropy. Critics believe the program was kept secret because American Southerners value their privacy, and it would have inspired widespread outrage. So I love him talking about fiduciary responsibility.
I also love the idea that his immediate reflexive reaction to is let's sue this guy. Like this guy's saying we need to challenge these old corrupt Democrats who are paid off and not actually representing our interests. You know what makes sense? We should sue him for all he's worth, because they know this 20-something-year-old kid doesn't have their resources.
It's
good
so
for David Hogg.
Yeah, good for David Hogg. It's so bizarre. Like, also, isn't like just suing people you're like mad at or disagree with, isn't that MAGA stuff? Like,
yes.
Isn't that just doing exactly what you're talking about? What absurdity. Good for David Hogg. Also, like, Cuomo, that's really frustrating. I know he does this a lot, but like, it's just MAGA. It's just MAGA stuff. Being angry isn't MAGA stuff. Like being upset about like a policy or the conditions of something, that's not like what MAGA is about. It's so childish to be like, well, the quality of MAGA is that they're mad, and if you're mad about something, that means that's what you
primarying,
are. Like,
or primarying Democrat, or like doing or primarying incumbents. They look at what Donald Trump and his wing of the party has done as a major problem for the for the establishment Republicans. But the base loves it, and the same thing would happen for our side. So it's not MAGA stuff. It's just like being responsive to what your voters want.
If you think about it, the Rainbow Coalition was proto-MAGA.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's just like, how do you view politics? What do you want people to do? Like, it's just, you're kind of comparing AOC to Marjorie Taylor Greene in a, like, this way that is so just, it's not even surface level. It's above surface level. It's like this atmospheric sort of vibe. Like, well, they went up against their party a little bit, therefore they're the same. But obviously people want stronger representation for what's going on now. The Republicans won. Yeah. They control all 3 branches of government. The Democrats, for all their other like occasional wins, they're losers. And you need to win in order to exercise power. And so you want people who can win and then do things like go to El Salvador. Like that's an action that many people in the party who have been in the party for many years would not do. And we're looking for people who have that have that dog in them for this current era, which clearly leadership is not capable of contending with.
Right.
Can I just inject something here? As someone who worked at CNN when Chris Cuomo was fired, the other big irony is, like, you could see his face sort of like perk up when Carville was like, well, you're a lawyer. You can't come on News Nation, where he now works, and promote CNN. Famously, Chris Cuomo was fired for helping his brother secretly
Yes.
during his brother's political crisis, and then lying about it repeatedly on CNN, which is why he got fired.
Right.
And so it's just like, that's an extra layer of irony.
Thank you, Russ. Great point. And his brother is running as the exact candidate that those guys really want, which is basically a Republican light corporate stooge representing AIPAC, representing all of those moneyed interests. And you know what? When they say we got to break off, I would love if those guys broke off. Please go actually go become a Republican. I would love you to become a Republican. Become a Republican, please.
Or like the business liberals, and take away that, like, to take away. I mean, that's what kind of happened in the UK with like the Lib Dems split from Labour. But yeah, get out of there, but also draw more from the right and the capitalists to break up that party. Yeah.
They should bring their message to the suburban Republicans, and I really think that they would be better served in that coalition. Like the amount that we don't need James Carville to win elections cannot be overstated.
It's why is he even on that show? Like, what are we doing? Why are we having these? Nobody, like you said, like nobody knows who this person is either. Aside from that perfect 30-second clip, just drenched in irony and conflicts, and just like, wait, what? Wait a second.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who this guy is. And again, James, you're on TV. Put on a shirt. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I don't know what. I mean, he did the John Fetterman before Fetterman, the dressing down to make you look like the everyman, to distract from the fact that you're working with Palantir.
I just think it's maybe when you say when you do a media tour talking about how we should play dead as Doge is happening, maybe you should disclose that you are a Palantir asset. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Maybe not though. Maybe like
I don't wanna.
Yeah, just do what you want. Get away with it. Everybody's
He's gonna
doing that now.
sue you for even suggesting it.
Exactly.
The funniest part is we didn't play like the 30 seconds before this clip started. What they're talking about is how important it is to get money out of politics. That's the lead in to this exchange.
Yeah. Rough.
Rough. Every day. It's from all sides. It's so delightful to see just so many people just like, it's not even, I guess that's not really lying. It's very misleading. And again, all these sort of contradictions, but you can just say whatever. It doesn't matter anymore.
Nope. Before we let you go, wanted to have just one fun clip talking about this with you. People may remember, I think there's like a legendary old clip of Michael Brooks losing it laughing when he found out Bolsonaro got COVID, right?
Correct,
Matt?
yes, yeah.
Yes. So we're keeping the spirit alive because this man, he can't, it's like The Notebook. He can't quit the hospital. He's got to keep going back. And
incredible.
So does he have, so it's not Munchausen's by proxy is when you hurt your child to get attention.
Well, by proxy is it's of the child, right? So just Munchausen, I'm not a doctor, I'll just say this, but my understanding is if it was just Munchausen, it's of yourself.
Right. Here, Munchausen syndrome, also known as a fictitious disorder imposed on self, is a mental disorder where individuals fabricate or induce symptoms of illness or injury in themselves for attention or sympathy. That's totally unrelated to the clip we're about to show you of Jair Bolsonaro in the hospital again.
This is the music I jog to.
He's such a hero. Wow.
Who shared that and who put the music on it?
Jair Bolsonaro.
It's a hype up tape.
Himself.
Thank God.
Which is why I'm not a nationalist. I think, being nationalistic is silly, but I do think Brazil is the greatest country in the world because Can you imagine if instead of what we have now, Donald Trump was walking around with his shirt off and like if these were images
Oh my
of
God,
Donald
I
Trump,
know.
that's how joyful it is right now to be a Brazilian.
If only.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
It's so good. It's like I wish it was what's that talk show where the guests do dance down the hallway now?
The Jennifer Hudson show.
Like that's all I could think about during that clip. Just like getting ready to do his little interview.
I mean, honestly, it's like when you watch the NBA playoffs and like LeBron or, you know, whatever, Steph Curry is coming last out of the tunnel and it's like, oh my God, here he comes.
But it's like so good.
You may not like it, but this is what peak male performance looks like.
That's the one weird thing about fascism in 2025 as opposed to like 100 years ago, where they were trying to make it was like the Ubermensch to be like a poster of a guy looking like Superman or something like that. Now it's like JD Vance whining that people are mean to him on Twitter and Bolsonaro being sickly.
Right.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, it's sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
it's even the tech bros like being little twerps and Elon Musk like just being the most awkward guy imaginable who without his wealth would not even
It can't stop whining. It's so it's very funny, but it is also like, but you're in power right now. Like just shut up and do the evil shit you want to do. like it's only whining. They're all like, you're the richest man in the world and you complain about a tweet. Like just get it together. It is a very funny, pathetic version of fascism, which they all are. You know,
right.
But
it's just harder to hide in this media environment, maybe.
Exactly. Like JD spends, I don't know what his job is, but it seems to be just tweeting at random accounts and like getting into quote tweet arguments with people and obviously lying amidst it, but being like, I'm so tired of this emotional manipulation. And so I'm going to do it back to you or whatever. It's like,
it's the only way Trump lets him out of his cage because like he basically completely discarded him after the election. He was the bag man that brought the skeptical Peter Thiel on board, and he has no longer.
And then then the internet made fun of his appearance, and so he had to do a week-long tour where he like shot a bunch of guns and called them freedom seeds to make himself feel better.
Freedom seeds.
Did it work? Did you see that?
No.
It's either a White House official tweet or a JD Vance official tweet, and it's him in like fatigues or whatever, and he's shooting a gun, and it's like, we're spreading freedom seeds. Is the
so
quote,
the bullets are freedom seeds? Here we go.
Seeds, yeah.
See, even this internet whiny little like just the vice president of the United States sending from freedom seeds downrange doesn't get more American than that.
It's so weird and gross. It's like this, and Vance does it the most. The White House obviously does it when they're with their honestly effed up deportation tweets with like the AI stuff and all that. But it's just this weird like like millennial way of like posting,
irony pilled online, nothing matters. This is why the Democrats' best weapon is sincerity and humanism. This has a shelf life. People don't want these whiny bitches all the time anymore. Like, come on here,
because they also don't mean it. They don't believe in it. Like half the stuff they say, it's just like they need to post something and they know the tone needs to be how it is, and
indignant.
So
it's grating.
Yeah.
Even like
really
the freedom seeds thing, I don't think even appeals to most gun or like I think it splits gun people. I think there's like certain type of like guy who buys a gun and like fantasizes about some sort of like zombie scenario or maybe a race war scenario that likes the thing, freedom seeds. I think a lot of people are like, what are you talking about?
Right.
It's the weird thing, honestly. Like it's like every day they post something or say something and it's like, Walls was right. They're weird. It's very off-putting. And I think we're seeing so much of it, like obviously the actions of the administration are very appalling, but I think also the personality and the vibes are so weird and off that that's also off-putting for a lot of people who they think they're playing to. But ultimately it's like, what is this? You're just also, like whining at a cat turd online. Like, what are we doing?
It makes them look small, but also what is the freedom seeds thing supposed to mean in the context of an administration that is saying
Anti-war.
that they're anti-war.
Anti-war, exactly.
So like
yeah.
the bullets are you're just doing the Bush neocon thing and spreading freedom around the world through violence. And speaking of Bush, that's what must have been like. I'm almost longing for the days of his level of like going away, retirement kind of thing, where like maybe there was some there's more manliness in him painting those paintings of dogs than there is in whatever the hell Bolsonaro is doing.
Yeah, like shyly confronting his demons, I guess, in the bath by himself. Like, okay, go do that. Yeah, it's also like, I mean, the Freedom Seed thing, I'm pretty sure was the same week that he went to Greenland for 3 hours and then did that speech where he was talking about how like, yeah, we're gonna like provide you with all the resources, we're gonna give you even more money. I think he said like $100 billion more for the military, and he said the phrase like, if we ever go to war, or when we send you to war, and then he'd correct himself, like, if we ever have to send you to war. They're the war administration. They just have to have this sort of veneer of like, but we also hate that we have to. We don't want to do the war, but they're gonna make us do all these wars. It's very pathetic.
We're supposed to think they're bringing masculinity back, and this level of just bitching is, I mean, but it is the fascist thing. And to bring it back to Bolsonaro, both weak and strong. The opponents are both incredibly strong and also super weak. And we are both incredibly strong, but also super weak at the same time. It's this contradiction that only is reinforced by their very black and white, dogmatic.
Yeah, they have their
ideology.
Categories. They have all their talking points. And they're like, we're gonna like, it's just like, yeah, we're gonna like destroy these soy boys who are after us. Oh no! They do that all the time, and they can have it both ways, I guess, because it works for some people. But it's just such an obvious play and back and forth.
Also, they are not given their whole like fixation on keeping women in the home. I wouldn't call them spreading freedom seeds across the world. Yeah, it's more of like a chattel seed situation. But yeah, gross. Cody Johnston, everybody's got to check out some more news. I mean, where are you guys at? Are you over 900,000 subscribers at this point?
A little over 900,000.
Let's
so
get
check
that
us
to
out.
a million.
Please, check us out, subscribe. We do a weekly long form like written show, and then we have 2 podcasts beginning at the end of the week where we talk about all the things that too many things happen.
Well, you guys do amazing work over there. Some more news. We'll put a link to that in the description below wherever people are listening to or watching this. Yes.
Can I also say, I have to say this just in the context of all the Tim Pool of it all. Check out my band, and I'm not joking. Check out my band. We're called The Hot Shapes. We're online. I didn't name my band after my podcast, unlike some brilliant artists, but check that out.
Yeah, you didn't? Okay, gotcha. Good.
I had to say it. Sorry.
Check out that band. I got to check it out too. Cody, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Love all the work you all do here, especially in this era. It's so laser focused and sharp, and you don't let all the stuff distract you. And I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that too. Thanks so much, Cody. All right, guys. With that, we're going to wrap up the first part of this program, the free part of the program. We're going to head into the fun half.
Got a little some business to attend to first.
Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Happy birthday to
Thank you so much. Oh, look at that fire in the studio. Let it go. Boom. Oh, is this funfetti?
It's called birthday cake.
Birthday cake. I mean,
all rights reserved.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I love this flavor. I'm not always a cake person, so you took a risk here, but I don't know where I put that fork. I may have dropped it on the ground, whatever the plastic fork that was over there, and threw it out. I'm sorry, Russ. I didn't know if that was for me, but I have a spoon here. All right, don't worry about it. Thank you guys so much. That's really sweet. But I did get some beers for the fun half, which I always enjoy doing sometime. Thank you. On a Friday, on a special occasion.
I always enjoy doing sometimes.
Sometimes. Just my words kind of sometimes fall apart when I'm
99% of the time.
99%
every time.
Also, like, you know, my mom was trying to just let's all get together as a family. I'm like, I got this, I got the wedding. I'm under a mic. Like, I just feel like there's too much attention on me. So I get awkward and sometimes stumble over my words and don't make eye contact. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. It's really sweet for you guys to remember my birthday, and I'll have a bite. And then Matt, as I'm doing that, will tell us what's happening on Left Reckoning.
Left Reckoning, we had Grace Thorvalson on talking about some anti-vax stuff in Colorado, and Jared Polis being a sort of a Libertarian Caucus Democrat governor. So check that out. We're going to do a Sunday show, patreon.com, just Left Reckoning for members. We're just shy of 1,000 members. So if you want to get the Sunday show, like the 900 and some other people that get it, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. Also subscribe to us on Twitch.
All right, folks. Join the majorityReport.com if you'd like to support this show. Please do. It keeps us resilient in these turbulent times. We will see you in the fun half.